Hi everyone, I'm Virginia Butler and I am here with two tree experts to one extent or another and from very different programs, but both affiliated with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. Amanda Grisa, Monroe County Horticulture Coordinator, and David Morabito, Master Forester Owner Volunteer. And they both have some information we hope to help you and me with my trees since this storm hit. Now, let's just clarify for a second here. This was an 81 mile per hour wind. We've had other windstorms before, okay, and they can be devastating. How bad does this, for a forest or for trees in someone's yard, where does this fall on the continuum?
Do you want to start?
From my perspective, and I'm not an expert, I've been trained in regard to the Master Forest Owner Program, which is through Cornell and the New York State DEC. And my perspective was, how does it impact forest in the state of New York? Larger woodlots, things of that nature. Amanda's got a specialty in urban forestry. So we have two different perspectives about how it impacts. From my perspective as a forest, it's probably a minor impact, to say the least.
It's hard to believe, when you see all the pictures of trees down and into houses. What do you mean by minor?
Well, from a forestry perspective, I'm talking about large tracts of land. This is not a huge event. We have much more serious problems in the state of New York in regard to high grading, invasive species. From an urban perspective, especially if you own a home that was crushed by a tree, it's catastrophic. So I think the impact is much greater from an urban perspective than a forestry perspective.
And certainly most of the areas that were hit the hardest were communities with lots of houses and lots of trees, some of them older. So what kind of advice would you give in terms of assessing the damage? For instance, I went out in my yard and I saw stuff all over the place. I didn't have a big problem this time. I've had worse issues before with trees. But I know it probably weakened some of them. What do I look for?
Yeah, so in your yard, you'll be looking kind of at the trees overall. So in some instances, homeowners just had kind of scattered tree debris. So branches, if they had conifers, they would have had branches with needles, pine cones, things like that. So it can go from very minimal to more substantial, where they're having either trees that uprooted or trees that the main stem, or what most people call the trunk, broke in half midway up the tree or closer to the roots. So beginning to assess your damage, you want to look for, what would you rate this? A 1 being just branches on the ground, to a 10 where you pretty much lost the whole tree, either to breaking in half or the total uprooting of the tree. And depending on the age of the tree, there's different factors that can affect whether it can be saved or not.
Yeah, I know it's hard for you to say, this is what you do and this is what you don't do, but I mean, for instance, are some trees more easily damaged in events like this?
So the older and the larger the tree is, the more likely that it can be wind thrown or overtopped. And then, of course, trees that have damage either from insects, disease, rotting of fungal diseases, things like that, you're more likely to have damage with those trees. But for this event, because we have had kind of warmer weather, increased rains, the ground was soggy, I think that could have contributed to the more damage and actually uprooted trees that we saw. And unfortunately, many of those trees had substantial root damage, where roots were ripped and cut in half, and instances like those, you're less likely to be able to save the trees. But it's always best to contact a certified arborist through the ISA, which is the International Society of Arboriculture. So these people are professionals. They've taken certified courses, and then they've gone through and had testing done, and they have to go through continuing education opportunities to maintain their license. These people can tell the difference between a fir, a spruce, an ash, or an oak. So these people will be able to help you and really specifically look at your tree in your yard to determine what to do next.
So that's something to look for, certified arborist.
Yes, you
And-
want
and the-
an ISA certified arborist.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, some folks are tuning in here, and I want to invite you, if you have any questions, to go ahead and ask, and we'll try to answer them. I do have one question, or at least a comment from, let's see, where did she go? Oh, yeah, loss of trees in the cemetery. One woman says, Barb Dollar, says that her tree came down, broke in half. I saw a number of pine trees that were just,
Yeah.
snapped right in half. The rest of the tree is cracked and unsafe, but was told that the tree is healthy by a tree person. So, I mean, that's kind of hard to answer because we can't see the tree,
Yeah.
but let's just take that example of a tree snapping in half. That sounds like a goner to me. What if it's a pine tree and the top gets lopped off?
So it does depend on the tree species. Some trees are able to recover with what looks to us or the layperson as a total loss. So, like this person mentioned, where the crown or the top of that tree snapped, and then it looks like it's just a trunk. But in some instances, that will be okay. It depends on the tree species. Any comments to that?
Trees are resilient.
Yeah.
And when we think back, what was it 1991 with the ice storm? Our forests came back, our trees came back when it appeared to be complete devastation in the greater Rochester area, but things came back, our parks came back,
Yeah.
It was, I was very impressed at how resilient that the trees were able to regrow, branches that were torn away, broken off, things of that nature. So I've seen trees broken in half and they survive.
That's interesting. So this person might, that advice could have been good depending
Yeah,
on the tree,
yeah.
and just leave it.
Yeah, most important thing is safety. You better
Yes.
make sure the safest tree and it's not going to hurt any people or property.
So what's something to look for in your trees if you're looking up and checking branches?
Well, Amanda's really correct about, if the trees are hollowed out, if there's insect damage, it makes the trees weak and the branches could be weak. And there are devastating accidents in the forest with lumberers, timbers cutting trees down that are weak or unstable. That happens sadly all too often.
Yeah.
Or when I go hiking over Mendon Ponds Park,
Be careful for a little while.
Yeah. Be careful if you're going to go out in the woods. And also, we would, comment about the broken branch up there in a tree and say that's a widowmaker. That's
Yeah.
what
Yes.
I've heard them referred to because those things can fall down in a wind.
Yeah.
Or even when there's no wind, they're already weak. So I guess look for loose branches that
Yeah.
might be just sort of lingering up there in your
And
tree.
look for the general health of the tree, really. That's what it
Yeah.
boils down to.
So this spring, you can look for if there's decreased foliage. So if your tree is really not coming back as vigorous as it normally is, or you do see specific branches that aren't producing leaves, or in your conifers if you're losing needles, those might be trees that you want to have checked out this summer or fall.
You want to be observant.
Yeah,
Know your
just take
trees.
note. And most of us have, like you said, your favorite tree in your yard, and to lose that tree can substantially affect the way our landscape in our homes are. So we can go from having a shaded yard to total sun, and then that changes the rest of the way our landscape is. And that can be a big deal for people who've put in the time and effort and money to make your landscape the way it is.
Speaking of urban forestry, I remember there was a sad example in Worcester, Massachusetts, where they had to cut down about 25,000 trees. So that did change the landscape of that city
Yeah.
drastically.
Yeah, I know. Just cutting down the maple tree next to our house made a lot of sun come into
Yeah.
our house, no longer shaded.
Yeah.
Let me just get to a couple other comments here. GSL show, Jeffrey, shout out to you. The city said it would take up to a week to clean up. Yeah, I feel sorry for all the people who are commenting. It's so labor intensive.
Yes,
and it just
it
takes
is.
time to move the trees out, decide what has to go, what shouldn't go, what's and they might need to take out.
Yeah.
So that it could be a while, and unfortunately, we're all going to have to be patient with that.
Yeah.
I'll be very impressed that they can do it in a week. To
Really?
me, it's months or years to
Yeah.
really clean up.
Yeah, and another comment on that, the weather that we're getting this weekend, the colder weather is
Yeah.
definitely going to make it harder for crews to clean up. And really, you don't want to be doing too much cutting work in freezing conditions. So that might extend the recovery period. But for street trees that we may have lost, replanting those trees is not as simple for towns or cities to just go out and choose a tree to replant. There's considerations to go into that
And it can
tree
be a
planting.
very expensive proposition
Yeah.
when you're bringing crews in to cut down not hundreds but thousands of trees.
Yeah.
It can be very, very costly
Have we,
for the taxpayer.
yeah, have we had an estimate on how many trees we lost
No
this year?
idea.
I don't know that I've seen anything yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's come out specifically. I think right now the main concern is restoring power.
Power, right. So those are going to be the priority
Yeah,
trees, the
yeah.
ones that are on the power lines
Yep.
or on people's cars or property. Also, there was a question here from John Leiston, or he has a comment: should you always replace a tree with a sapling? Should you always replace a tree? Is that
It's individuals'
depends on your
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. You know, trees are important to our landscapes, so if you own a larger piece of property, if you're losing a lot of trees and you have waterways going through your property, it might be more important to that landscape to replace the trees. But in urban settings, it is up to the individual's choice, but we have to look at the type of services these trees provide us. Shade, beautification,
Yeah,
just being
especially-
able to look at your tree and enjoy it.
in an urban area.
yeah.
You don't want to lose too much of your
Yeah.
green stuff because
Yeah.
everything else is not green.
Yeah, so I would always recommend to plant a tree if you lose one, but just out of my personal beliefs, because I truly love trees in my landscape. So, but it is up to the personal choice, and then there are different costs associated with the type of tree and the age of the tree that you decide to replace your tree with.
You know, I'm sure there's people saying, "Oh, they're just trees."
Yeah.
What difference does it make? Aside from the aesthetics and shade and things like that,
Yeah.
that's important to the environment.
Environmental concerns,
Yeah.
soil and water conservation, erosion, things of that nature. So it's very important. It's very dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole ecosystem, and it's interesting to learn about. More from Jeffrey. He's saying that he hopes everyone stays warm and safe. I'm sure
Yeah.
the people who have no power right now are hoping that will happen
Yes.
soon. Is it easy to tell if a tree is too weak to survive, or is that? I mean, you said an arborist really should make that
I
call.
think you need an expert.
Yeah, yeah. The expert who's been continuously trained, has years of experience, they can really go out and look at your tree, but also your soil conditions, and conditions surrounding the tree, because all of those will have an effect on the longevity of the tree. So maybe you have a tree that's close to your house, so that root system might be bound, or a shallow root system because your soil type. So those things all affect the longevity and the safety of the tree overall.
Okay. There's a couple of things that your organizations offer.
Mm-hmm.
David, the Master Forester Owner Volunteer Program actually can help owners of land that has a lot of trees, not necessarily urban
in New York
areas.
State,
but-
we have 698,000 landowners who own woodlots of 2 or more acres.
Okay.
And we've been sort of trained, not as experts, but trained as a volunteer to go into those woodlots to assist property owners, to give them guidance and how to hire, what to look for when you're looking for a forester, what are the best management practices for that woodlot or that forest, things of that nature. You know, I'm not trained to give very detailed, exact information, for instance, you've been trained, or a forester, or a professional arborist, but we give general information, and there's about 180 of us been trained since 1980, and that's through Cornell University, the DEC. Cornell Cooperative has been magnificent in helping us, giving us guidance, seminars, webinars, symposiums, conferences, articles, things of that nature to educate us. And it's a volunteer organization. We're available to anybody in the state of New York to volunteer. For instance, I got a call to come here to talk about this. So we're out there. There's a lot of people we're in the Western Finger Lakes area, and there must be 50 people in this area of the state that could to help landowners.
Okay, do you know the number offhand?
No.
Okay.
But look under.
We'll make sure that number comes up
Yes.
somewhere.
You could just say MFO, and I think it would come up, Master Forest Owner.
Okay, all right, so
Simple
that's a
MFO.
free assistance to
Yes.
owners of property that have more than, is it a specific amount of acres? You said two.
No, that's just generally, but I'm sure Master Forest owners would go to somebody in an urban setting to give them guidance or help. You know, we're available for the public.
Okay, that's
And that
great
was the
to know.
commitment we made when we were educated and trained in that, to
Yeah.
be there for the people of the state of New York.
Okay, that's great to know for people who might need an assessment. And also, how about the Cornell Cooperative Extension? There's a lot of free information.
Yeah.
This is a great organization, and boy, if you have to do homework on this, on how to find somebody to help, because it's an expensive proposition taking care
Yes,
of
it is.
your trees. So, what do you recommend from the Cornell website?
Sure. So on our homepage right now, we have a page that has various resources, including the updated list from October 2016 of ISA, which again is the International Society of Arboriculture, certified arborists within Monroe County and then surrounding areas. So they're split up by DEC regions, and we're in Region 8. And that actually goes from Monroe County all the way down to Steuben. So we have certified arborists and businesses within this area. And then we also have pages and resources on chainsaw safety if you're going to go out and do some of the work yourself.
You're getting a ton of likes right now, let me just say. They're flying across the
Great.
screen.
Check out our website. And then we also have resources on best pruning techniques. If you're
Yeah.
going to go out and try to do some preventative stuff yourself and prune your trees, cut down problem branches. So we have techniques and resources on our page on how to do that successfully. And then also our gardening helpline. We do general gardening questions, but we also talk about invasive species. So we get a lot of calls on people who think they might have the emerald ash borer, or they have declining ash trees and they just need kind of some assistance in where to go. So our gardening helpline, currently we are available from 9 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But in April, we'll be available Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. And our phone number is 585-753-2555. And our trained master gardener volunteers will be there to answer your questions, email or snail mail you fact sheets and resources from Cornell, and give their experience as master gardeners.
You know, also the USDA,
Yeah.
Department of Agriculture, NRCS, we have excellent programs in this area of the state to help people in this area. We have different agencies, the DEC, you've got the foresters there, they're wonderful to deal with. So we're in a very fortunate area in Western New York. We've got great assistance from many different levels. Even Cornell University, you'd have a lot of people there to help people. And you gotta remember one thing, you know, planting a tree, you wanna get the right tree in
Yes.
the right soil,
Yeah.
you know, things of that nature. Every tree grew because it was a perfect setting for that particular seed.
Yeah.
So you have
So,
to take that into consideration.
Going off of that,
Yeah.
Cornell Cooperative Extension Monroe County has a diagnostic lab. And so we'll take soil samples in our lab to determine the pH of your soil, so you can, you know, find a tree that is suitable for your soil type and pH. And then we also take in samples of if you have insects that you can't identify, or you have branches or leaves on your tree that you just aren't sure of the problem. We can take those in for a small fee, $5 for a soil sample and $20 for plant samples, and help you identify issues that you're having with your tree, which you can then go forward with our management recommendations, whether you really should call an arborist or there are things that you can do at home to alleviate those issues. So we're a good place to start looking for information and to get a whole picture of kind of non-biased, research-backed information for you to move forward with the next steps.
Exactly.
And
what
I can
was-
attest, I can attest that Cornell Cooperative does a great job because I've taken those programs.
Yeah.
How to use a chainsaw. You think something that simple is very dangerous.
Yeah, no, that's not
So-
simple. I've tried that.
So taking advantage of all the programs at
Yeah.
Cornell Cooperative, the people of this community should take advantage. It's an excellent program.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's this little teeny building over by Highland Park.
Yeah.
They're so, they're humble about what they do, but boy, they
Yeah.
do a lot. So
We have
definitely worth
moved.
checking first. Oh, okay. Where did you move
Well,
to?
most people still think we're on Highland.
Okay. See, glad I.
But I get calls about that all the time. You're still over on Highland? No, we've moved up to St. Paul Boulevard, so we're near the zoo, about a quarter mile
Okay.
past the zoo entrance, 2449 St. Paul Boulevard. We love people to walk in and talk to our master gardeners when they're on the helpline, or talk to Liz in the diagnostic lab, or whoever you need. Right now we house an agriculture educator, a commercial horticulture educator, and then we have people from the nutrition team working in our building. So, it's a great group of people, and we have a lot of information to share.
Okay, great. Thank you, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for helping the folks who might be having tree trouble. One woman commented about how her tree was waterlogged. It went over, and water was pouring out of it. There are so many things that could be wrong, and you
Yeah.
can't see that from the
Yeah.
outside, So definitely check out Cornell Cooperative Extension to get more information and advice. The number, once again, for them is 585-753-2555. And thanks for joining us. Hope this was helpful. And this will be, on Facebook, and we'll repost it a few other places in case you want to take a look. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.